This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
What is up, guys? Super excited for the show today. I have Michelle Tucker. She is the best-selling author of the book, Think and Grow Rich Today, Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth. And her latest book, which we're going to talk about today, is Exit Rich. She is available, and that right there, that book is available for purchase. In addition, she's been featured in Inc., Forbes, USA Magazine. Michelle makes regular radio and TV appearances on Fox Business News and CNBC. And she has personally sold over 500 businesses, and her company has sold over 1,000. For more than 20 years, Michelle's been in the trenches helping hundreds of business owners build a scalable and sellable business. She helps owners create a business that works for them rather than the other way around, and has helped thousands exit rich. She has taken her extensive knowledge, experience, expertise, and proven formulas with buying, selling, fixing, and growing businesses, and packaged it into a step-by-step process within Exit Rich. Michelle, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Jason, how are you doing?
Doing really, really good. I kind of want to get into, if you don't mind, I mean, we can get into, I know you've had over 20 years experience in this, and we'll kind of get into a little bit of history, but I would love to kind of dive into the book today on this Exit Rich. But before we get into this, if somebody wanted to, if they're like, this is for me, and they want to get, I know you're pre-selling the book, how would they be able to do that?
Sure. So they could go to exitrichbook.com. They can buy it on Amazon, but if they go to exitrichbook.com, it's less expensive. It's $24.79. They will receive the digital download immediately, so they don't have to wait for the book to be shipped. And then we'll ship the book to their doorstep when the book comes in.
That's awesome. So kind of like, I know this is 20 years of experience that you've poured yourself into this book. What was like what was the reason behind writing this book? I know you've seen a lot of business owners struggle, but, planning for your exit, what does that look like? And what caused you to write the book?
Yeah. So several things caused me to write the book. I wrote my first book in 2013, Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth. And, I've been noticing that the business landscape has been changing ever so often. I mean, I would drive, ever so often, all the time, I would drive in front of strip centers or, go back to a commercial retail space and find that the business that was there a week ago is no longer there. Plus, 80% of businesses don't sell. 8 out of 10 businesses will not sell. And that's according to Steve Forbes. And Steve Forbes also endorsed Exit Rich. So I wrote the book because I really feel like entrepreneurs need to be educated on what buyers are looking for. And I feel like entrepreneurs really need to adjust their mindset. Most entrepreneurs are really attached to their business, and they think of their business as their baby, and they think they're never going to sell it. Well, that's the wrong mindset. You should always start your business with the end in mind. You should always plan your exit from day one of starting or buying a business. And when I wrote, my first book, Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth, in 2013, I did the research and learned that 85 to 95% of startups will go out of business. And that's pretty much common knowledge. But then when I wrote Exit Rich, because again, I was seeing all these businesses go under, when I did the same research, I learned that only 30% of startups will go out of business. So those businesses within 1 to 5 years are not at great risk of going out of business anymore. However, out of 27.6 million companies, those businesses that have been in business 10 years or longer, 70% of those companies are now going out of business. 70%. So you can see, Jason, how it's flip-flopped. So it used to be 85 to 95% of startups, but now it's only 30% of startups, whereas it's 70% of existing businesses that have been in business 10 years or longer. So that's why I really wrote Exit Rich, is because it really breaks my heart to see these business owners go out of business. I mean, in the United States, we hear about the public companies all the time shutting down, like Toys R Us in business 75 years goes out of business. Stein Mart, Kmart, JCPenney's, Montgomery Ward, Pier 1. And then Godiva is closing down 1,500 locations. GNC is closing down 900 locations. But what they're not telling us in the media about all the private businesses on every street corner in every town in every state across our great nation. And these businesses are dropping like flies. And unfortunately, many of these owners are going to be forced into selling for pennies on a dollar, closing their business, or even worse, filing bankruptcy. And typically, when you file bankruptcy in the US, you don't just lose your business assets, you lose your personal assets too, because most business owners pierce that corporate veil by signing personal guarantees, by taking out mortgages, to support their business and secure their home, using their home as collateral. So that's really why I wrote Exit Rich, is to try to help save more business owners and help educate business owners that you really have to plan your exit from the beginning. And you need to build a business that buyers want to buy. And you need to build a business operating on all six cylinders, all the Seiler Tucker 6Ps.
And that's something I want to get into. I know in chapter 4 of your book, you have the 6Ps. And I love the quote that you put in there with Guy Kawasaki is, ideas are easy, implementation is hard. And that's something I want to share with everyone in your book. There's always a lot of macro views in the sense of business books, and they kind of give you the philosophy or the idea. You have how to execute and like specific areas to focus on. And that's kind of what I want to get into today a little bit, the 6Ps. And I'll kind of, if you don't mind, we'll start from the very first one, the people, because do you have the right team? What does that look like whenever you look at people with this 6P method?
Right. So the biggest thing that I find with many businesses is that the owner is tied to the business. The business will not function without the owner. And I'll give you some examples. A dental practice, been in business for 45 years, 1 dentist, 3 dental hygienists. That business is not really sellable for maximum value because once we take that dentist out of the practice, there is no practice. That dentist has created a glorified job in which they go to work every day. They have not created a business that works for them. So most businesses are completely tied to the owner, and buyers are not wanting to purchase a job. They want to purchase a business. So that's one of the biggest issues associated with selling a company, is that the owner is involved and the owner doesn't have the right people. So we always want to go in and evaluate the employees and look at, does that owner have the right people in the right seats? A lot of times businesses can have the right people, but they have them in the wrong position. Plus, we want to ask the who question. Who opens the doors? Who handles customer service? Who handles marketing? Who handles accounting? Who handles legal? Who handles manufacturing? Who handles transportation, logistics, environmental? Who? So the clue here, Jason, is you should never be next to the who. The business needs to run without you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So when you say because right now you're stepping on a bunch of toes.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's true.
Yeah, exactly. These entrepreneurs, they've made this their baby. They've poured their heart and soul into it. Now they may be, 50, 60 years old and they're looking at exit. We know Jeff Bezos just done this. What is it, how do you separate yourself, or what do you see when you go in and you consult? Is it like, what do you have to have that hard conversation with that owner?
I do. And, you brought up a very good point about Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has a company, right? With hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and not thousands of employees. Even Jeff Bezos stepping down from CEO caused the stock to decrease dramatically that day. Did you pay attention to the stock market when Jeff Bezos dropped? Yeah. And so the perception is, oh my gosh, when a CEO leaves or the owner leaves, then the company is going to decrease in value. The employees might not stick around. The quality is going to decrease. There's not going to be as much customer satisfaction. Things are going to be ran differently. So there's a perception that when the owner steps down, that the quality is not going to be as good, even with Jeff Bezos, who has built a huge company. Now, with the smaller businesses, I'll give you an example. We have a manufacturing company, been in business 50 years, 2 owners, 50-50 partners. They have 4 employees. And they're like, Michelle, we can fabricate anything for anybody. And I'm like, yes, you can, but can you have 4 employees? And they said, no, everything's in our head. And both of them are in their 80s. So I said, well, what happens when I take both of you out of the business? Will the business operate without you? And they're like, of course not. That's an example. And that example, I can tell you over and over and over and over again. I had a sweet little old lady call me up a couple months ago, and she was distraught because her husband dropped dead from a heart attack, left her with a mountain of debt. And she asked me, Michelle, can you sell the business? And so I started asking her all these questions about how many employees do you have? Do you have any processes? Do you have this? Do you have that? It was a construction business. He was a general contractor. He'd been in business for 40 years. He didn't have a business. He had a job. There was nothing to sell. Nothing. So what I'm teaching on, what I'm educating, what I talk about in my book is how to build a business. You don't build a business. You build people, and people build the business. But if you are the business, then it's going to be very difficult to sell your business for maximum value. Not impossible, but it's going to be nearly impossible to maximize value when the business is dependent upon the owner, like in the case of the fabrication company. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. And I love the who, like asking that question, because whenever you look at businesses, and I know there's business owners listening to this right now, and they're saying, I'm guilty of this, and it's amazing to me how an owner filters everything. They have to have, they have to sign every contract. They have to have that marketing meeting. They have to be, everything stands still unless the owner gives the okay, and puts the check mark on it.
Yeah. Look, we're entrepreneurs. We're all guilty of that. I'm guilty of myself sometimes of that. And entrepreneurs, we're notorious for wanting to do it all and wanting to control everything. We think, if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. But here's the bottom line. You're never going to grow unless you let go of control. You'll never grow unless you let go of control. So you got to let go of some of the control. You have to focus on your strengths, hire your weaknesses. Focus on your strengths, hire your weaknesses. Be the visionary that you are. And make sure you have a good integrator that can implement all of your vision, all of your ideas. And so that's what you really have to do in order to build a business that's sellable. And the reason that 70% of businesses are going under is because business owners stop doing what I call AIM, AIM. They stop innovating and marketing. You always have to innovate and market. And a lot of business owners become complacent and they want to do things the way they've always done them. And a perfect example of that is Blockbuster. Blockbuster saw Netflix. They saw the writing on the wall. They had the opportunity to purchase Netflix and they sat back and did nothing. And now Blockbuster is bust. So you have to always innovate. You always have to market. But here's the deal. Focus on your strengths, hire your weaknesses, get the right people in there, get the right marketing team. The marketing team doesn't have to be your employee, but they can be a partner of you. You can hire an external marketing company. You don't always have to have W-2s to fill that void of getting the right people in the right seats and answering that who question.
I love that. And number 2 is product. And does your product have a niche or intellectual property?
Yes. And is your product, your industry, on the way up or on the way out? Is it thriving or is it dying? Do you have an Amazon and you're at the top of your game, or do you have a Blockbuster and you're practically about to go out of business? And, this has really shifted because of the pandemic. A lot of industries that were thriving before COVID are now dying and vice versa. So if you have a Blockbuster, that's not the time to close up shop and go home. That's the time to really align yourself with an expert, a mentor, an advisor, somebody who can help you see things more clearly. Because I always say, Jason, when you're in your fog, it's foggy. And sometimes you need an outsider's perspective to really maybe see things that you're not seeing because you're in the middle of the chaos. And I always work with my clients to ask 3 transformational questions in this product phase, because this is where you really have to figure out if you need to pivot. This is where innovation comes in. So I always tell my clients to ask themselves 3 questions. Amazon actually did this back in the 90s. Amazon asked themselves, what business are we in? They said, oh, we're in a bookseller's business. We sell books. And then they asked themselves, what do we do really, really well, better than anyone else? And I said, well, we do fulfillment really well. We're better than anyone in fulfillment. Then they asked themselves, what business should we be in? Should. That's the key word, should. And they said, we should be in a fulfillment business. Those 3 questions right there, those are transformational questions, not transactional. We have to step out of transactional and become transformational in which to grow. Those 3 questions is what transformed Amazon into the worldwide multi-billion-dollar conglomerate that they are today by asking those 3 questions. So businesses have to evolve. You're either growing or dying.
Right.
You're either thriving or dying. So if you're in an industry that's not doing so hot, that doesn't mean that you close your doors down. That means that you get creative and you pivot.
Yeah. And speaking of pivot, how have you seen, or specifically, how do business owners grab the courage to pivot?
Well, most entrepreneurs have courage, right? We wouldn't be doing this crazy game of business if we didn't already have courage. So, I think, there's strength in numbers. So if an entrepreneur feels like they're down on their luck and they're, discouraged and in a dying industry, there are so many successful entrepreneurs that love to uplift other entrepreneurs and love to help and advise and grow up other entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I love giving back. I love helping entrepreneurs. I love trying to save businesses. And, I'm not the only one that feels that way. So if an entrepreneur is discouraged, they should really reach out and they should find themselves a support team. They should find themselves a network, a mastermind, perhaps, something that's not going to cost them a lot of money. Maybe align themselves with an advisor, an expert, someone who's been down that road before that they want to travel so they can shorten the learning curve and really get in there and see maybe what they're not seeing. But, it's all about doing things differently. You take the restaurant industry. The restaurant industry, oh my gosh, they're taking a huge beating, right? But I know lots of restaurant owners that are looking at their business going, okay, what can I do differently? Commander's Palace is one of the number 1 restaurants in the world right here in New Orleans. And they shut their doors for probably 6 months. But then they ask themselves those 3 questions, what business are we in? What do we do really well? What business should we be in? They started, because they couldn't open their doors, they started a wine and cheese business where they would create experiences, because the business they're in is creating experiences. So if you can't bring the experience to the restaurant, let's bring the experience to your front door. So they started selling wine and cheese packages between $100 to $500 a pop. And then everyone would go on a Zoom call every Wednesday with a sommelier, and they would go through all the different wines and cheeses and chocolates, etc. And if you're not in Louisiana and they can't deliver to your doorstep, then you can go to your favorite neighborhood store to pick up wine or cheese and still participate. So that is a great idea of how you can pivot, how you can think about things differently. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, I love that. And when we get into, and this is kind of one, if we could just park at for a few extra minutes, because I think this is the one, for me, I saw this as being hugely important. And that is the number 3 is process. And you talk about efficiency with your processes. How are people getting it wrong when it comes to process?
So people are getting it wrong when it comes to processes, because processes are kind of like exits. You don't really think about it until you have to.
Yeah. Yes.
And people don't think about exiting their business until a catastrophic event has occurred, whether that be external like COVID or internal like health issues, divorce, death, partner disputes, etc. Processes are the same way. Most business owners don't think about processes until something catastrophic happens. I once sold a business that had a catastrophic injury for one of their employees, and the employee lost an arm. Oh my gosh, we need a health and safety process for that. Well, don't you think we needed that health and safety process beforehand?
Yes.
Same thing with customer service. I had another client who's had terrible, terrible customer service. So customers started going and blasting it all over the internet, and they really had a horrible reputation. And they're like, well, we need a process for that. Well, really, you need a customer service process before that. So you really need to think about processes from the minute you buy or start your business. And you need to design your processes. Efficiency is important, and so is productivity. But even more important than that, Jason, is thinking about your customer experience. What do you want your customers, what do you want your clients to experience when they do business with your company? And if you don't care about the client experience, then you probably shouldn't be in business. And the processes should be designed with the customer experience in mind. Did you ever watch the movie The Founder?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if I watched it or not. Who was in it?
So The Founder is based upon the McDonald's brothers that started McDonald's and Ray Kroc. And it's called The Founder, and it's based upon McDonald's. Did you watch that?
And it had Michael Keegan in it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to give you a quick example. So back in the 40s, they always had these Sonic type drive up restaurants where, waiters, waitresses would come out on roller blades or roller skates. But they never perfected a process back in the 40s. So the food was always cold. The order was always wrong. And it took so long to get. So the McDonald's brothers said, we're going to develop a restaurant, fast food restaurant, and we're going to design the business around our customer experience, the processes around our customer experience. We want our customers to get great tasting food that's hot, fast, 2 minutes or less. So they went out to an empty tennis court. Do you remember this when they took all their employees to the empty tennis court?
Yeah, it's probably like, isn't it like 5-6 years old? It was on Netflix. Yeah. I don't remember. What did they do?
So they took all their employees to an empty tennis court. They took chalk. They drew all over the tennis court. They drew out their processes. And then they had all their employees move from station to station to station in the tennis court to figure out how do they create a systematic processes designed with that customer experience in mind, where customers get great tasting food, hot, 2 minutes or less. So they kept erasing it, and they kept restarting until they figured out who takes the order, who toasts the buns, who cooks the burger, who puts the pickles on the buns and gives it to the client 2 minutes or less. That processes, even though those processes have been tweaked along the way, you can eat at a McDonald's in Albuquerque, in Australia, in New Zealand, in the United States, and receive the exact same experience, correct?
Yes.
Because it's designed with the customer experience in mind. Have you ever noticed, have you ever done business with a company and it's just the opposite? They infuriate you. And you're like, oh my God, it's so hard to do business with this company. It's so hard to give them money. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, yeah. I think it's happened to every single one of us.
All the time, right? All the time.
Yeah.
Because when they designed their processes, they did it based upon their own agenda. They did not base the processes on the customer experience. And if business owners don't create wow experiences and they create unwow experiences, then the clients are going to go somewhere else. So that's the most important thing to get right when it comes to processes. Design it with the customer experience in mind, and then perfect the efficiencies, perfect the productivity of your processes. Make sure you have the policy and procedure manuals. Make sure everything is documented. You have SOP, standard operating procedure checklist, and make sure your employees are trained on such, because when buyers go to buy a business, one of the first things that they want to look at in due diligence are your PP manuals.
Yes. And so whenever you're looking at creativity and efficiency and you look at this customer experience, and I think now, especially with COVID, it's forced a lot of businesses to do this, and some, like you used earlier, some pivoted, some didn't. What are you seeing now with clients that are coming in? Are you seeing businesses that are on their way? Is majority of businesses still not figured it out, or has this forced them to figure it out?
I would say a majority of businesses still have not figured it out. Yeah.
So a pandemic can help them.
I mean, I think, I think what the pandemic has helped business owners with is figure out how to work from home, how to become virtual, how to, maybe improve efficiencies virtual. But I think, business owners have to get back to the basics, and they have to go back to asking their consumers, their clients, what do you want? What do you need? Because here's the
Right.
bottom line. The pandemic occurred. And are these business owners really going to the customer and asking them, look, I appreciate your business after all these years. I appreciate your loyalty. What can we do for you? How can we make it easier for you to do business with us? What do you want? What is it that you need? Because their wants and needs have changed. And
Yes.
I will tell you, the company or companies that make it easier for the consumer to purchase products and services is the companies that are going to win.
Yeah.
Amazon is winning because they make it so easy to do business with them.
Yeah, I was looking at a vehicle, and this is during COVID. We're still in COVID, but this was a few months ago. And I got the standard email that said, come on down. I don't want to go to a dealership now, especially with what's going on. In the automotive industry, you would think that they would catch on and say, hey, let's do this, e-commerce style. But you're seeing these, that's everyone needs a vehicle. That's huge. And they're still trying to do it the old way.
Yeah, and that's why I said that I don't really think businesses are adapting. I think, some are. I mean, like, some are in the restaurant industry, some are in many different industries, but the majority, I think, are still doing things the same way. And they're going to get left behind. You either adapt, you either grow, or you die. And it's unfortunate. And that's why I wrote the book Exit Rich. I actually wrote it right before COVID, not knowing that COVID was coming. But so it's so important just to ask those questions, to your consumers. What do you need? What do you want? How can I make it easier to do business? Because if you don't have any clients, you don't have any business.
I agree 100%. And number 4, you have proprietary, which is the intellectual property, brands, patents, contracts, and databases. And I know data is really important now, having, making sure that you have, data available with machine learning and artificial intelligence and everything that's going on. What are you seeing with, especially with small businesses, this problem with, grabbing onto this intellectual property?
Well, proprietary is the number one value driver. Proprietary will get you a higher multiple for the sale of your business than anything else, and any of the other 5 Ps. And the way, I'll just give you a quick crash course on valuations, but the way that businesses are evaluated, that most businesses, businesses that have under $1 million in EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. They will typically trade for anywhere from 1.5 to 4 times multiple, 4.5 maybe. But if they have proprietary, if they have IP, then they'll push the envelope and get more. Businesses that have an EBITDA of over $1 million, $2 million, $3 million and up, these businesses are going to get a much higher multiple, starting at 5, 5.5. The more the intellectual property that they have, the more money I can get them for their business. There are 6 pillars to proprietary. Number 1 is branding. The more well branded your business is, the more I can sell your business for, as long as your brand is relevant in the mind of the consumer. Nobody wants to pay anything for Blockbuster, right?
Right.
But they'll still pay money for Toys R Us because that brand is still relevant. So you got to build your brand. Trademarks are also very valuable. The mistake that business owners make when they get trademarks is, let's say they're in the state of Texas, they'll go get a state trademark, but they don't get a federal trademark.
Mm.
And if you really want to grow your company and sell your company for massive value one day, you need to make sure you have that federal trademark, because here's a problem. If you've never checked the federal database, you could be in business for 5, 10, 15 years and all of a sudden receive a cease and desist letter in the mail, and you have to hire an attorney and try to fight it, but you're probably going to lose. And if you lose, which you probably will, then you're going to have to stop using that name and start all over and build your brand up all over again. So spend the $1,500 to $2,000, get the federal trademark, protect your name, your name on your company, your podcast name, your name on your book. I mean, I trademarked Exit Rich. Trademark any slogans that you have. Also, patents are very valuable. Do you ever watch Shark Tank?
Yes.
And what's the question that every single investor always asks on Shark Tank?
Yeah, they ask about patents. But the main thing I see with them asking is, I mean, basically what they're doing is taking your book and trying to evaluate the company really fast in seconds. So to me, that's like everything that you're talking about in your book is kind of
Right.
like what they're running through in their head. That's what I'm seeing in this list.
Right, but they're not going really through the whole 6 Ps. But you're right; they're trying to. I mean, they're not really asking deep questions about people or deep questions about processes and things of that nature. But yes, they're trying to do it very quickly. So patents are very valuable. Patents are important. So if you have an invention, patent it, get an utility patent. Contracts are extremely valuable, and contracts need to be understood because most business owners don't understand contracts. So, manufacturing contracts, distribution contracts, vendor contracts, any type of exclusivity contracts is extremely valuable. Franchisor, who has 1,000 franchisees, is very valuable. The most valuable of all contracts are client contracts. We're selling a landscape business that has 400 commercial clients, and those contracts are reoccurring revenue. Buyers want to buy businesses that have reoccurring revenue, that have residual income, that have work in progress. We call it WIP, that has money coming through the doors. Here's a caveat with contracts, Jason. You got to make sure 99.9% of all sales are asset sales, not stock sales. 100% of all business owners do not have the transferability clause in their contracts. So if it's an asset sale and a buyer refuses to do a stock sale and your contracts are not transferable, that deal could fall apart. And that's what Exit Rich is all about. It's about doing all of these things first and doing them right along the way, crossing your T's and dotting your I's and getting that two sentence clause. Otherwise, that could be, that could kill your deal.
Yeah, and number 5, you talk about a loyal client base, and I want to get into that in patrons. What are you saying? Like when you say, do you have a loyal client base? Because I think a lot of business owners have this, my business first, me first, ego type, and they don't understand the words loyal.
Yeah. So before I answer that, let me just jump into one more thing on proprietary, if that's okay with you.
Oh yeah, of
Because
course.
I want your listeners to really understand proprietary. Databases are huge. Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp, and WhatsApp was hemorrhaging. You can be in business and lose money. And as long as you have one of these synergies that we're discussing right now, I could still sell your business. Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp. WhatsApp was hemorrhaging, but guess what they had? 1 billion users. So
Yeah.
Facebook knew they could monetize and ROI that. The last thing I want to mention in proprietary that I want your listeners to hear is what I call IP real estate. So IP real estate is celebrity endorsements. Well, Rush Limbaugh, he's gone, but Glenn Beck, Oprah Winfrey, any type of celebrity endorsements for any type of products is huge. Buyers will pay a lot of money for that because they want to get their products and services in front of these celebrities. Also, let's say you manufacture furniture and you're number one on Wayfair, or you manufacture vacuums, you're number one on Amazon. This is what we call IP real estate. The strategists and competitors will pay a lot more money for. And we're really good at creating bidding wars. And the way that we create bidding wars and get our clients 20 to 40, sometimes as high as 65% is because we identify these synergies, we identify the right buyers, we create a bidding war, and we determine who's going to pay more for these type of synergies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I love that. Getting into this loyal client base and the word loyal, because I think you could probably, and I know in your book you do this, you can define this because a lot of people think they have a loyal client base and they really don't.
Yeah. And I don't think, back in the days, like, gosh, what, 30, 40, 50 years ago, I think clients were a lot more loyal than they are today.
Right.
you
Yes.
know, and I think today, it's like whoever makes it easiest for them is who they're going to jump ship and do business with. But in the book, I decipher between the 3 different types of clients. So, you have those loyal clients that are going to do business with you no matter what. even if you raise the prices, they'll stick with you. They have stickability, but that's not as prevalent as it used to be. So you always got to work. You always should work hard to ensure client loyalty. Make sure you create those wow experiences, and make sure you keep your clients happy. Because if you don't, somebody else will. And then you look at, I think I broke it down in the book as far as those loyalty ones. And then you got the convenience ones. People who do business with people just out of convenience. That would be like a drive-up dry cleaners.
Right.
Or drive-through grocery store, drive-through liquor store, something like that. And then you got the price conscious customer that shops around for price. They will waste a tank of gas and drive all over town just to save a few pennies. So you really got to identify, is your business based upon location loyalty or brand loyalty? Do people come to you because you have a convenient location, or do people go out of their way to purchase your products and services because of your brand? And so what you really want to do is increase brand loyalty and, have some loyalty, have some customer incentive plans that enhance loyalty and keep customers coming back to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that doesn't. And what I really found like a gold nugget was in this is the client base. Is your client base diversified, or do you have a customer concentration? And then you used an 80-20 rule, and I had never even thought of this. It was amazing.
Oh yeah, so the 80-20 rule, I mean, that's prevalent in the United States. Most businesses follow the 80-20 rule, where 80% of their revenue comes from 20% of their clients. And if they lose a couple of clients, then they're completely out of business. I mean, we once were working with an advertising firm, media/advertising marketing, and they have 5 clients who were selling them for $10 million. $10 million. And then in the process, they lost 2 clients. They lost 2 clients. They lost like 50% of their revenues.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. Yeah. So how do you look at this? Whenever you're, because you use when you talk about this, you talk about being pivot again and being nimble.
right,
But how
right.
do you create a diverse client base?
Well, that's where it gets really difficult. I mean, right now we're selling a agriculture business, and they have severe customer concentration. They $75 million gross revenue, $17 million EBITDA, 70% of their business is with one client. Now that one client's huge, and that one client's all over the United States. But if they lose that one client, they could be in big trouble. So we really work with our clients to say, okay, listen, we got to go out there. We got to get other clients. The problem with this company is they can't handle any more clients.
Mm.
So what do we do in that case? The reason they can't handle any more clients is because the clients they have say, we need more stuff. You need to fill our shelves for more products. We need more products. So they really cannot handle any more clients right now. They're at capacity as far as clients. So how do we sell that business? That's like a really good question. How do we sell that business? And the way we sell that business is the same way I've sold other businesses with customer concentration. Is we try to get the business owner to get customer diversification. And if that's not workable for whatever reason, and if the sell is time sensitive, then we go out to find the right buyers. We find a buyer who wants that customer, that 70% customer contract, because they have some more products and services that they can get in that door and they currently cannot get in that door. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example really quick. We had an oil manufacturing business we sold. It had a few patents. We appraised it in the $9.8 million range. We had 550 buyers. We had 12 LOIs. They had customer concentration, 65% with BP. That scared off a lot of buyers. But we found a strategic that has similar products and services that have been trying to get into BP for decades and could never get in the door. They were willing to outbid everybody else and pay more because they knew that if they bought this company who already had great relationships with BP, they could get their products and services in the door and ROI and monetize on the sale of that business. So they paid $15 million for a company that was appraised for $9.8 million. They paid $15 million for 70% of the business. That's what we're going to do with this company.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then lastly, and we'll end in this one, and I want to talk about this, is profits. And you said something in the book, and I thought this was like so truthful. And I want you to talk on this. The one P that buyers will not pay for is potential.
And that's so true, and it's so true. And one thing I want to say about profits is never the problem. Profits is never your problem. I have clients that come to me all the time, Jason, and say, Michelle, I have a profit problem. And I analyze the business. I'm like, no, you have a people problem, or no, you have a process problem. A lack of profits are a symptom of not operating on one of the other 5 Ps. It's never the problem. If you get your 5 Ps in order and you're operating on all 5 cylinders, you will have profits. I guarantee it. And buyers will not pay for potential. Now, buyers will buy synergies, they'll buy contracts, they'll buy databases, they'll buy all the things we talked about. But if you just started your business and you say, you hear about this all the time on Shark Tank, right? That the evaluations, what do investors always tell the entrepreneur? Your evaluation is way out of whack.
Right.
Your evaluation makes no sense. And a lot of times the sharks will pass on an opportunity because it's an inflated evaluation and they're unrealistic. And they want to base everything on future potential. Well, buyers are not going to pay for the future. They're not going to pay for the potential because they're not going to pay twice. They're not going to pay you for it and then turn around again to earn that potential. It takes money to make money. So in order to obtain that potential, you probably have to hire people. You probably have to spend money on marketing, right? You got to hire legal. There's a lot of things that you have to spend money on in which to gain that potential. They're not going to pay twice for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
But they won't buy a company without potential, because if they are looking to buy a company that is on its way out, like Blockbuster or Toys R Us, then they're not going to buy you because it's on the way out.
Yeah, it's something like, like Sears and real estate, and I know McDonald's is the same way with their real estate. There's, they can look at that and there's a hard asset sitting there, with the real estate. Yeah, they may not be in retail anymore, but at least we have all these properties that they own.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point that I like to talk about sometimes is McDonald's. Go back to my 3 transformational questions. Remember when Ray Kroc was in the bank trying to borrow more money after he leveraged his family home and pierced the corporate veil?
Yes.
I remember the bank said, you're over leveraged, we can't lend you any money. And he was upside down because the franchisees were not paying. So remember when he walked out the door and this gentleman followed him outside and said, hey, what business are you in? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's been so long. I need to rewatch it now. You're like encouraging me to watch it again. I love business, anything business, and so I'm going to watch it again. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah. So we asked him, what business are you in? And Ray Kroc goes, well, I'm in the restaurant business. He goes, no, what business are you in? Ray's like, I'm in the restaurant business. And he goes, well, what business should you be in? And he goes, and Ray's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And the young man said, you need to be in the real estate business. You need to be the one that starts McDonald's Real Estate Corporation. You need to go buy up all the property. You need to build the McDonald's buildings, and you need to lease it back to the franchisees. If the franchisees are not compliant, you void the contract, you put another franchisee in there. Those questions, those transformational questions, is what led Ray Kroc's ability to be able to take McDonald's away from the McDonald's brothers, because he had all the leverage in the real estate. Those 3 questions is why McDonald's is the largest real estate holding company in the world.
Yeah, I did not even realize that. I know. I remember the real estate thing now, but that's so crazy. So somebody would evaluate McDonald's solely based off of the contracts that they have with the franchisees and then the real estate.
Well, on their brand, I mean, they're probably worth over $55 billion.
Right.
Just the brand alone. I mean, the largest brand in the world right now. Do you know what the largest brand is? The most valuable brand?
No, I don't. What would be it'd probably be like, I'm going to go like an easy one. Is it Amazon or something like that?
Well, it's in the A's.
Apple?
Apple. So Apple is worth you were close. Apple's worth $289 billion. And that's just the Apple brand. That's not taking into consideration real estate and inventory and assets and EBITDA and everything else. McDonald's is over 50 billion. So you value the brand, you value the real estate, and then you value everything else.
No, I love that, because I mean, you can even look at like what's happening with Tesla right now. I mean, and how that, he's bouncing between back and forth to be the richest person in the world, and everybody's looking at, his technology and what he's accomplished with that.
Well, him and Jeff Bezos, I think, are neck and neck for the richest men in the world.
Yes. Yeah. That's crazy how you take somebody, because I had heard like in 2009, 2010, he was trying to do that whole borrowing money and leveraged everything and, almost went bankrupt. And now it's just that these stories are always amazing.
Yeah. And lots of business owners have went bankrupt. I mean, look how many times Donald Trump went bankrupt. You fell forward. I mean, just because you filed bankruptcy doesn't mean you quit. You fell forward.
So, Michelle, if somebody wants to, I want you to, mention your book again and your website and where they can go to that. And then if somebody's looking at, what is your criteria for your company to deal? Like if I have an entrepreneur right now and they're looking at exiting, what business do you usually handle?
So I personally typically handle businesses that gross, that will sell for $10 million and up. And that means over $1 million in EBITDA, typically over, $10 million in gross. But my firm has a team. We have a team of analysts, team of agents. We handle businesses that are smaller. We're really driven and motivated to help entrepreneurs exit rich. And so we're not saying we're only going to sell large businesses. And that's why I have a team of people that can help as many entrepreneurs as we possibly can help.
Yeah, and I saw something like on your website with the Exit Rich website, and maybe you could go into that. Do you have like an academy or something that's going to be happening?
Sure. So let me go into all of that. So so you can go buy Exit Rich right now in the middle of pre-sales, and you can buy it less than Amazon. So for $24.79, you can purchase Exit Rich. We will email you the digital download immediately, so you don't have to wait. You can start reading it today. Plus, we will send the hardcover to your doorstep to anyone that lives in the United States. And in addition to that, we will give you a lifetime membership into the Exit Rich Book Club. The Exit Rich Book Club is full of video content when we're talking about, the 6 Ps and the GPS exit model, negotiations and 5 different types of buyers and everything like that. We really take deep dives. Plus, we have documents. A lot of business owners have come to me throughout the last 20 years and said, Michelle, I don't know what I've never seen an employee non-compete or an employee handbook or an organizational chart or policy and procedure manuals. And a lot of times business owners are like, well, gosh, I want to sell my business, but I've never even seen what a sample LOI, letter of intent, looks like, or purchase agreement, or closing documents, or due diligence checklist. We have all of these documents in Exit Rich Book Club that are available for you to review, and even better, your digital download. And these documents are worth over $25,000. If you went to your attorney to try to recreate all these documents, it would cost you over $25,000. So any documents that you need to run or sell a business are there for your review and download. And then we're also giving you 30 days free membership into Club CEOs. And Club CEOs is a mastermind, an entrepreneur mastermind that I started online, Zoom mastermind, where we ask those tough transformational questions, where we, help business owners. We have hot seats, and we really help these business owners, figure it out, survive, and then come on the other side of this pandemic, be able to thrive, and then when you're ready to be able to exit rich. And that's a free membership.
I want to make sure this is clear because this is amazing. You're going to take all your years of experience, all these documents that have been created to run your business and be that. And how much are you charging for the documents?
Nothing.
That is amazing.
It is a pre-sale. It's a benefit. It's extra value. It's a bonus that we're giving you for anyone that goes out and buys Exit Rich right now in pre-sale. And by the way, just to tell you a little bit more about Exit Rich, Sharon Lechter is my co-author. Sharon Lechter wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. She's a New York Times best-selling author 5 times. She's written several books in the Think and Grow Rich Napoleon Hill Foundation. And she's a CPA and a financial literacy expert and has been the advisor to several different presidents, including Obama. Plus, we have endorsements by Steve Forbes, Les Brown, Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins. The list goes on and on. But the documentation, which is worth over $25,000, is worth the purchase of Exit Rich alone.
That's amazing. And so I encourage everybody to go. They can go to, I'll have the link in the show notes. And then also, if you're listening to this from the email, it will be in there at exitrichbook.com. And, I love your motto, helping entrepreneurs exit rich. I just love that. And Michelle, I thank you for being on the ABQ Business Podcast today.
Thank you, Jason. And can I tell your listeners one more way to get in touch with us?
Yes, please.
Okay. They can text Michelle or Exit Rich to 888-526-5750. That's 888-526-5750.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's been a pleasure being with you.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.